so much of our ability to behave in the ways we want can be affected by the groups and environments in which we are situated. I do believe that character traits are much more contextual than people tend to think. I think I think this is consistent with the psychology of character as well, that when we think of character as a disposition to behave in a certain way under a certain environment, if I say Tom is an honest person, generally it means I'll predict that Tom is going to behave in certain ways in certain situations that display the trait of honesty. But it's tempting to think of that trait of honesty as like an intrinsic feature of Tom that follows him around no matter what environment he's in.
Right.
And I think there's tons of evidence that character doesn't work this way. That is, it's much more like, if you think about a chessboard as being like the character traits are intrinsic view, like you have a rook that moves up this way, up and down and across, and then the bishop moves along diagonal. Those are intrinsic behaviors that are intrinsic to the piece. They're always the same no matter where they are on the board or who they're next to. Human beings aren't quite like that. It's much more like if you had a chess piece that had a basic set of moves, but when you moved it next to another piece, the set of moves changes because of its proximity or to other pieces around it. So imagine this really complicated version of chess, like it's contextual chess. You make a piece, you move it over, then all of a sudden the things it can do or is disposed to do is a function of not only of its intrinsic properties, but also the intrinsic properties of the other pieces in its configuration around it and the relationships they have on the board. So all of a sudden, it's not just a function of me, it's a function of the other person plus this set of associations that we're in, the configuration that we're in. Then that's the thing that determines what I can do or what I'm disposed to do. And this is like, Tom's at home, he's always a certain kind of guy, but in a work environment, he's stealing paper every day. And he's lying about his work performance. But in other contexts, he would never dream of being that dishonest. Right? So his disposition is highly contextual. Character is like
very true.
Hitler and other sorts of, horrible people still have these pockets in their social lives where they have norms of behavior that we would recognize as being good. And then these other areas where they're awful, that kind of compartmentalization is extreme in those cases, but we all exhibit it to a certain extent. And recognizing that in ourselves, I think it helps our emotional intelligence to come to realize that one of the ways I can make myself a better person is to change my environment. Because it's not just up to me. Right. It's not through an act of will alone, like heroic act of self-transformation, that I make myself this better person. Because our behavior is also a function of these contextual things. So change my context, and all of a sudden, these other behaviors become natural, become a part of the norm because of the dependency. So if you can figure it out, how that works. Like curiosity, for example, I know you wrote about the importance of, in terms of mindset, of adopting an attitude of actual curiosity towards other people and subject matters. It so helps. Well, they've done studies of this, and you can put people in a group of 5 curious people, and all of a sudden they become more curious because of the social impact of being around people who exhibit that trait. Right?
Yeah. Very true. I mean, even with weight, because they say if you have friends who are in really good shape, and let's say you're overweight, but you spend time around those people, they don't have to tell you about their diet or exercise regimen.
Right.
But because you're around them, you actually can lose weight being around those people. So